The Mammoth could be heading for a roster shakeup. Who stays, who goes, and its impact on their Stanley Cup chances on today's Locked On Mammoth.
You are Locked On Mammoth, your daily podcast on the Utah Mammoth, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you joining us. Locked On Mammoth. I am veteran NHL voice Tom Callahan, joined by veteran team analyst Robyn Leaño. We bring you the coverage each and every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen when it comes to the Utah Mammoth hockey team. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. If you have subscribed, but you haven't told your friends about us, now's the time to check us out, because June is a huge month for this team, even though they're not playing, even though the Stanley Cup final is going on, which we do talk about from time to time. But Robyn, it's such an important time of the year because right now all the game planning is happening. What's going to happen at the draft? What's going to happen in free agency? And there have been a lot of just reports and talk and various buzz coming out of the combine in Buffalo. I was in Buffalo last week while the combine was going on. There was a lot of talk about teams maybe wanting to shake things up, especially some of the teams who were disappointed with their lot in life. But Utah keeps surfacing as named among these teams that could be headed for a roster shakeup.
Yeah, and I think what's important to think about is, Tom, where Utah is in their rebuild. We've talked about this so many times, right? That this team they were just on the outside. They looked a lot more competitive this year, but still had some glaring holes. But next year is a huge implicating year on, their playoff chances. And it makes sense to really make that discussion and enter into discussion, just really understand that Utah is probably looking to make a shakeup. I will say, Tom, that it's to me, it seems it's likely not going to happen in free agency, although trading is very well still within the within the potential of shakeup.
So, Robyn, and I want to get to our ideas on this because I think you and I both have some interesting takes on who stays, who goes. We're going to talk about it, and of course the Mammoth needs. But here's where I want to start this argument from, is the base assumption, or actually I guess fact, that this roster has not been good enough to make the playoffs. Has it gotten better? Yes. Has their point total improved? Yes. Are they a playoff team? No. And they haven't been. And that's not good enough in today's NHL.
You're right. We've talked about this so many times. Take a look at where this team was during the season. Yes, they got close to 90 points, but in the same under the same breath, this team had struggles with playing a full 60-minute game. You'd see games in which they take naps, and all of a sudden, instead of being up 2-1, they are now down. They ended up down 4-2. All of a sudden, just one period, it happens. We see other areas, glaring inconsistencies, other areas, defensive mishaps, just decisions that aren't correct. And for this team to make it into the playoffs next year, change does need to be made.
So when we look at the facts, they haven't made the playoffs. They are improving, but they just haven't made it. And really, at this point, Robyn, they could be set, I think, in some ways, but in other ways, I think that is maybe the dangerous assumption, is to think that, well, just because a player's got a high dollar total on him, he's untouchable. Do you have a list of untouchables on this team? If you're going to look up and down the roster, I suppose it's easy to nominate like a Dylan Guenther, Clayton Keller as untouchable. Maybe Sergachev. Would you even put any of the other defensemen? I know that, Durzi's coming up and Marino's growing, but
I will say this, Tom, and in all technicality, nobody is untouchable. Okay. However, the price tag of moving of like a player like your Dylan Guenther, your Clayton Keller, and those players is so astronomically high, it's just not going to happen.
And I mean, look, okay, I know this is an exaggeration. Don't toast me in the comments for this. Keller for Connor McDavid, straight up 1-for-1. Yes, you're going to make that trade. You know what I mean? So that's the no one is untouchable, but what exactly are you getting for Clayton Keller for Dylan Guenther? So, and I mean, even like we talked about it before, goaltending, just because Veg has a new deal, I don't necessarily think it makes him untouchable. Really, I think my guys might be Sergachev, Keller, and Guenther. That might be it. And then Logan Cooley, I think, would make that list as well. I don't know if I got anybody beyond that.
I mean, let's add to the fact that there are some players who have those kind of clauses where they really can't be traded. I mean, Keller has a no trade clause next season, as an example. Nick Schmaltz has a modified no trade clause, so he can submit a 10-team trade list, so you can go with that. Sergachev is a no trade clause as well. So those are in place, and you should keep those in mind when we're going through these decisions.
Right, and Marino and Mata have modified, and I think it's 10 games Marino, or 10 teams rather, Marino, and 8 for Mata.
The other way around.
Sorry. Okay. So it's 10 for Mata. And they have the modified list. So that is something that's going to play into it. But Robyn, as I'm looking at this, if you're wanting to really shake things up, I think there's a core of players who have been here for a little while, who are already signed for 25-26. Now, some of them don't have much time left on their contracts, but I think if you're Utah and you want to make a splash, we're going to start digging into some who goes here. And I'm going to nominate a couple of guys for who goes that might rock a little bit of the boat here. But Lawson Crouse and Alex Kerfoot, I can like both of their games. I can also not like both of their games. But I think that you have to look at them as being one of the guys you'd be willing to move on.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that certainly makes sense. And it's interesting you mentioned, that, I mean, I had Lawson Crouse in the back of my head too. And it's not like I'm saying, and again, I think it's important to say, we're not saying trade Lawson Crouse now. Right? What we're saying is that this could be on that list of players you're shopping around to see what you can fish out, see what you can get as a good return to improve your team for next year. And again, it's not a dig on Crouse either. I think he's a fine player. He didn't have a good season, but I think he's a fine player. I think he can and could have a good season next year, which could end up helping for trade, but we'll have to see.
I think his year was very disappointing. And there's no way to mince those words. It was disappointing. I think he fell very short of expectations. When I look at Lawson Crouse, I say that's a guy you need more out of if you're going to make the playoffs. Now, what makes him an attractive trade piece to me is the fact that other teams see that he's 27. He can still have some upside. He does bring a lot of intangibles. Maybe a change of scenery does him some good. He could be one of those guys just kind of worn down by the old Coyote system of the past, and maybe getting out, even though Utah is a breath of fresh air, and definitely a positive one. Maybe he just needs to go somewhere else to flourish. Different system, different coach. I don't know, but he just hasn't shown me that he's going to fulfill the potential that I think we all marked him for 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I'm certainly not as, again, pessimistic about that, but I still do. I'm still watching cautiously of how he goes. But again, I think it is important. It is going back to the point of what we were saying is, I wouldn't be surprised if his name comes up among a list of players who could be on their way out or who is at least on the trading block.
Robyn, are you of the opinion that you have to give something to get something and that's a positive? Or are you I don't necessarily want to give something to get something unless it's really clearly a trade in my advantage?
I'm very, like I put it, this is gonna, I'm not sure what way this is gonna make me sound, but I'm on that latter side. I'm hearing those, I'm taking in offers and listening, and I'm like, this is not a clear, not a clear win for me. I want a clear advantage, a clear, what's going to end up helping our team in the future. And could it still end up being beneficial for the other team? Yeah, sure, absolutely. That's not the issue. But to me, there has to be a plus coming our way.
All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about Utah's pending roster shakeup here. Who should stay? Who should go? Mammoth needs as well, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back. And today's show is brought to you in part by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Well, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, which gives you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. And isn't that what we all want out of our snack? I've showed you, I love the little snack packs. Grab it on the go. When you get that little hunger pang, like you're going somewhere to work from work, or wherever you're headed, maybe you're running some errands, you just kind of keep them handy and it takes the edge off and it's perfect. I love that. Love the no shells variety. I love the variety of flavors in the variety pack. I love it as a grab and go snack. So huge fan of that. And it's complete protein. It provides you all 9 essential amino acids. I don't know. You can't really ask for much more. And it's just, again, grab and go ease. I'm sold. Let's do it. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño, come on down. You are the host for Locked On Mammoth. And yeah, we're just we're having some fun here, but we're also talking some serious stuff about a Utah roster shakeup. Robyn, the winds are blowing, especially coming out of the combine. This is the other thing. There's a couple of places during the year where the general managers kind of all get together. Obviously, the draft. They also get together at the GM meetings. But I think the combine is kind of sneaky underrated because there's a lot of close proximity. Yes, you're talking to draft picks. Yes, you're checking these guys out. But there's some sidebar conversations going on there. You have to know that.
Oh, I mean, when you're that close, what else is going to happen, right? What else are you going to see? I mean, not to mention too, scouts are so many scouts are involved, literally everyone, you have so many different kinds of people that are involved in this. It's a whole thing.
It's very interesting too, because Utah has some young up and coming players who could be available. They have a number 4 draft pick, which they might make the pick, they might not, but they're going to listen. And they also have a situation, Robyn, where they have that intangible that not everybody has, and there will be more of it, but still teams are going to run out of cap space. And we haven't actually talked much about the fact that the Mammoth are still going to have a pretty good sock of cap space to be able to sometimes take what, fans may say, well, that seems like a lopsided deal. We just gave up a star player for, a couple of prospects, a couple of picks. But Robyn, if you couldn't afford that star player anyway, you were going to have to deal them for something. And sometimes that brings their value down. And that's maybe where Utah can afford to take some swings.
Yeah. They can, let's say there's an underperforming player who is of a lower value on a lower value contract, they can choose to trade that person away, bring in a more higher value because they can afford it. Really go for it. I mean, and you mentioned it because Utah has that much cap space. I think right now they have, going into the 25-26 season, they have a projected cap space of $20.35 million.
Which is pretty outstanding. That's a good chunk of change. And if you're wondering, so team targets, okay, who could Utah look at? Robyn, and this is without everything signed. This is without all the contracts in-house. The Avalanche already are down to just 1.2 million in cap space. The Lightning are at about 3.5. The Stars are just under 5 million. The Blues are just over 5 million. The Canadians are at 6 million. Rangers at 8 million. The Capitals and Golden Knights are just under 10. So I just named some pretty darn good teams. And we also know that the New York Rangers are looking to make some big time changes. I would not be surprised if the New York Rangers were one of those teams that might be willing to wheel and deal a little bit. And they don't have too many sacred cows over there after missing the playoffs this year.
Oh, no, certainly not. And it'll be certainly fun to watch, honestly, to see all this happen, see all the dealing happen. And again, there are these teams, like you said, like the Rangers, like the Mammoth, who can honestly take advantage of all this at the perfect time.
And Utah is well positioned to be one of them. So, Robyn, defensively for this Mammoth hockey team, I think the only guy I'm not willing to entertain much talk on is Sergachev. But you know what? Even then, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to make Sergachev available. I am going to listen to whatever offers come my way. Now, I know you just made a big move to get him, but I would at least say, hey, let's talk about it. Now, Sergachev, full no trade. Okay. And we mentioned Marino and Mata have limited partial no trades. So apparently I have to check my network settings. Thanks, phone. So, Robyn, I think that, and the other thing is Durzi's doesn't kick in until 26-27. I think I'm listening on the defensive side too, because quite frankly, one of the things we complained about quite a bit this year was on the defensive side. We talk about the naps, the turnovers, the giveaways, the cross ice outlet passes that get intercepted and put in the back of your net. Those things have to change. And I don't know, coaching is one place you can change it. Personnel is another.
It really is, right? And you know what? I'm kind of glad you said it about Sergachev, though, because and again, it goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of this show is nobody is untouchable. You listen to offers for everybody. You're even, like I said, you're even listening to offers for Clayton Keller. You're not going to get rid of Clayton Keller, but you're still listening to offers and seeing what sticks. I'd like to. I wouldn't say we're not. Utah's not going to actively shop Sergachev, but they are certainly going to at least maybe make it known, but at least put it like a little make it subtly known that yes, we're going to listen to offers, see what we can, and see what comes back. And if it even is and like I said, if it's something that's worth it for Utah, for Bill Armstrong's not going to say no.
All right, let's talk about Mammoth needs here because we need to really outline the particulars of what Utah would be looking for coming back. So we'll get to that here in just a moment. Thanks for joining us here on Locked On Mammoth. Tom Callahan, Robyn Leaño here with you. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already. And if you made it this far into the program, I mean, even if you're just here to argue with us, that's fine too. Please leave your thoughts down in the comments, or you can track us down on social media. We're going to let you know where to do that in just a little bit here. But Robyn, let's outline the Mammoth needs. What could they possibly be bringing back? I'm actually going to start from the goal out. I think they need another goaltender. Now, and I could even argue for a 1B, but they need at least a solid veteran NHL backup because I think Connor Ingram's too big of a question mark to count on in any form or fashion for this upcoming season.
Yeah, they definitely do need something in place, right? And and to me, I think it needs to be something that could be easily like movable, and extendable if Ingram comes back and is able to play and do whatever. But you need something at least to kind of hold them off, right? Because again, we don't know about Ingram. We don't know how long he's going to be out. So looking for a goaltender certainly would be nice. I guess, like you said, a 1B would be nice, but I think a true backup, I think, is the safer way to go. Because again, that's going to allow you to maybe put in a lower dollar value, not to worry about Ingram. Let's say he comes back, you can get him on a conditioning assignment, say, okay, he's ready. What do we do with this backup? You can either shop him, see who else needs one, or you could just, wait for a period in which you can, quote, just buy out the contract. Like, yeah, like we didn't we got our guy back, and that's all we need.
If Ingram is able to come back and play next year, don't forget, I think Ingram has value.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the important aspect, right? And again, and that's why having a backup is the smarter move to bring in, because it's one that you can move around and buy out and kind of like or put or send down the minors or do whatever without much consequence to your cap, to your roster. You're still able to bring back in Connor Ingram when he's ready.
Now, another thing I would like, I'm not going to say a left shot, but a left side defenseman. Could be a right shot if it's someone who could play the off wing. But here's what scares me a little bit. Behind Sergachev on the left side, looking down that left side, you have Mata, Cole, Valimaki, who wasn't even really there this year, and DeSimone. Or at least for the second half of the season, Valimaki was in the minors. So that's your left side. DeSimone is listed as being able to play either, although a right shot. But Cole is 36, and that's just the reality of being 36. Mata plays hard minutes, and I expect to be reliable. However, there is always a chance that on the other side of 30, things can go wrong. So I am actually a little worried about the defensive depth of Utah as constructed coming out of last year. Now, we know there's a potential for some of the players to make a jump this year. And again, I thought Lamoureux looked great last year, looked pretty comfortable. But now the question you have to ask yourself, if you're Bill Armstrong, is do you want to promote a young player to the team now? Or do you want to put them in Tucson and try to get them a Calder Cup, a deep type of run there? So those are questions you have to ask. So I would love to see a good, solid, everyday NHL left side defenseman.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you said the reasons why. I think having like, let's say, older left shot, left side. And I said not necessarily left shot, but left side defenseman. In the mix, yeah, it's nice. They're veterans and they've been, somewhat trustworthy, but also you want to be able to focus on the future of this team. That's what we're still doing. Let's remember, in all technicality, this team is still technically a rebuilding team. They're in the next phase and the next, getting ready to move out of the rebuild. But to get there, you need to kind of move some of those pieces, find in and bring in the ones that make sense. Bring in the ones that are competitive, the ones that are gonna fit perfect with the team. And I mean, there's only so much you can do with that in one off season, but we'll have to see when it happens there on that defensive side. I certainly would like to see what those young guys can bring in. Maverick Lamoureux, you said it, played well in his time with the NHL, but kind of didn't have a great AHL season after getting injured. But again, that's kind of that's a side effect of being, of injury, right? It happens. And we'll have to see what Dmitry Shemishev brings in as well.
I know you're excited for.
I am excited for
I know you
Dmitry
are.
Shemyshev. I mean, like you saw him. We saw him come in in prospect camp, and there was a video of him taking just like board checks, kind of at full speed, and I'm like jaw drop, like, oh my god.
And Bill Armstrong indicated when those two signed at the same time, he said, "Hey, I could picture them with the big club. They might be ready. They've been playing in the KHL. They haven't been playing in junior. So I don't know. That could be interesting." And Robyn, just real quick, I want to add one other thing that I want to see Utah get is another top 6 center. I think that's important, either a 1C or a 2C. I don't mind having Nick Schmaltz drop to a 2C. I don't mind having more depth up the middle. Yes, there's a lot of guys who are listed and can play center or have played center in the past. That doesn't mean that they're natural centers, and it certainly doesn't mean that they're comfortable playing center at the NHL level. And I think if you got me, especially if it was a bona fide 1C, I'd be thrilled for Utah.
It would be nice, right? I do feel like, I don't know, this might be, I think depending on who you ask, this might be an interesting thing to say, but where so many people are just like happy, like not only necessarily happy, but content or satisfied, whatever the correct term would is I'm looking for here, of Utah's center depth. I mean, we see there are some really good centers out there who can play center and can do it well. So many people want to see Barrett Hayton take a step up. I mean, Barrett Hayton is supposed to be a top 6 center. Right. He's had some periods where he doesn't look like it, where he looks more like a 3rd line center, but had some periods where he looks like a 1st line center. And I feel like that's why I'm holding off. Like, I really want Hayton to be the guy. I really do. And again, Schmaltz can drop down. I got no issue with that. But I really want Hayton to be the guy. And I think Logan Cooley can certainly, he's supposed to be a center. So I certainly want to see where he fits as well. I mean, to have like a 1-2C between Hayton and Cooley, if they play well, that's the ideal way to go. But again, if we're talking about in the short term, yeah, sure, go ahead and get yourself a top 6 center.
Well, if I'm getting a 1C, that is not a short-term move.
No, 1C, absolutely not. I mean, the only question is, to me, Tom, is when you bring in a 1C, how are you shuffling the lines and how are you doing that? Because again, like I mentioned, you got Schmaltz, you got Cooley, you got Hayton.
And you may have to give one of them up. You may have to give up Schmaltz. You may have to give up Hayton. You may have to give up both. I don't think they're giving up Cooley. I think Cooley is going to be the next guy who gets a big payday, and he's going to be Mammoth for life if they can pull it off. But I think you do it by swapping out one of those other pieces. And you just have to hope that Schmaltz, whatever team you're dealing with, is not on his 10-team list.
Yeah, and you're right. And Schmaltz is among the list of players who I'd be like heavily listening to offers for. So if there is a center package and another center packaged in within a trade where Schmaltz is on his way out, let's say Schmaltz plus another player, bring in a higher level center, then sure, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to take that in a heartbeat. But again, that still requires a little bit of shuffling around. Again, I don't want to see Hayton leave, so I'm gonna hold out that he stays within that mix.
Yes, you definitely lean heavier on the side of give guys a lot more time to develop, and I appreciate that because
I'm very much homegrown, right? I love to see the homegrown the homegrown kinds of franchises, right? I love to see when these guys build them from the draft all the way up, because to me, that means a lot more.
Yeah, no, I understand where you're coming from. I just think I'm probably a little more willing to cut the ties, and you're more willing to see the development through. And we could both be right. We could both be wrong. So
no, I mean, I get it. If there is a point in these players' careers when it's really obvious that player is just their development's done, there's nothing there so they can really give us, or at least it seems that way with this team, then yes, I understand there's a point in which you can give them up. But again, I don't want them to get too far where their value is too low. You can't even get them for a bag of pucks. But there still is there's an important aspect to me of at least kind of giving them every resource you can to build within that team. And that's why I go as hard as I can. Don't give up too much of what you built within the draft.
Well, drafting and developing is certainly key. I don't think that very often in free agency you see a guy who takes a team from out of the playoffs to winning a Stanley Cup as a free agent acquisition. So I agree that drafting and developing for the long term is definitely a big part of that. So we want to know what you think. Where do your opinions lie? Let us know in the comments, or you can track us down on social media. And Robyn, with the change to the Locked On Mammoth podcast, also, we've had our changes to our social media handles. So if you've been gone from the show for a little while, welcome back. But Robyn, tell them where they can find us.
Yeah, you can find us everywhere on social media at Locked On Mammoth. That's at Locked On Mammoth. That's spelt below under my name if you want to see it on YouTube. So it's right over there. But also, I'm at Robyn_Leaño. Tom, and where can they find you?
I just don't want to talk to anybody, so please don't look for me. But if you have to, I'm kidding. Find me on Blue Sky at Tom Talks, and over on Twitter at Callahan on Air. And you know what? We're happy to continue the discussions. We've actually had some great discussions in the comments. We encourage you to keep that going. And you know what? Even amongst each other, kind of feel like we're building some community here, Robyn. And you know what? That's something that we're pretty proud of.
It is nice. I mean, we see our everydayers. We see everydayers who comment on YouTube, right? And I recognize our everydayers who comment on YouTube. And sometimes I just leave a heart, let them know I saw their comment. And sometimes I'll reply back and be like, hey, I love the comment. Appreciate all the love you've been giving us. And also the feedback. We see some of the questions come in. There are some questions that came in to newer hockey fans who want us to explain things. There are other questions that come in. We see your comments, by the way. We will get to them. We will do whatever we can to make sure that you guys understand and that we answer everything that you have. So, once again, if you have questions, any kind of question, even if you think it might be a dumb question, please don't hesitate to ask us.
Absolutely. We very much appreciate you interacting with the show and being a part of things here. So, all right. Well, we will catch you once again here on the flip side. And for Robyn, I'm Tom. Thank you so much for being a part of Locked On Mammoth.